Hello there, Virgos. Thank you so much for stopping by for your tarot insights. What I'm going to be looking at is one particular life cycle, and a life cycle can last from, I've seen it go from anywhere from 20 minutes to years, depending how long it takes you to embrace the lesson or experience and move forward. So there's really not a good time frame to say, oh, this is going to only apply for so long. For each of you, it's going to be different. But when we look at a lifestyle, life cycle, what we're looking at is basically you are a situation where you are set up to either learn something or experience something. And then we look at what happens as you integrate that lesson or experience into your life. So the first thing we'll be looking at is the setup. Generally, when I read for people, the setup is present tense. So you'll recognize everything in the setup. That gives you a chance to judge my accuracy for you in particular, especially since this is a general reading. And then what we'll look at next will be the lesson or experience that you're in this life cycle to achieve. And then we'll look at what happens as you integrate that lesson or experience into your life. And that'll be either what I'll call either at the end of the life cycle or the fulfillment or ultimate fulfillment of the life cycle. When I start talking about that, it's really important that you guys realize that this is just before you graduate on to the next lesson or experience and the next life cycle. We're not talking about right before you kick the bucket, okay? So, let's get started on you, Virgo. The first thing that I'm seeing here is talking about your environment, and your environment is any place where you have energy or effort invested. And what I'm seeing is that there are some things that could be happening in your environment and could be moving in a forward direction, but you're feeling kind of stuck. You're not feeling like you know how to move forward with some of the things that are happening in your environment or the way your environment is set up. And so, like I said, once again, environment is any place where you have energy or effort invested. I do usually see it come up as home, but I've also seen it come up as work or school as well. The next thing that I'm looking at are subconscious leanings. And for some of you Virgos, your subconscious things, when I look at subconscious leanings, these are things that are going on in the back of your mind pretty much all the time. Every once in a while, they'll come up front into conscious thought, but mostly they're kind of going on the back burner. There's a lot of thought in your subconscious about for most of you, this is about a particular person who is somebody who is in authority, and you are just trying to understand what makes this person tick so that you know what it takes to work well with them. For others of you, and for a lot of you, that feels like workplace. For a few of you, this is going to be like a significant other or somebody else in the family that you look up to. And then there was something else I wanted to say about this. Yes, for some of you, this is actually about you wanting to be the boss, and your subconscious is working on how do I get into that situation where I'm actually the boss in this particular position, whether it's that you want to be the boss in something that's in your marriage that maybe has always been a team thing before, or feels like the other person is stepping into your territory, or whether this is something where you're at work and you want to be the boss at work. You just think you could do a much better job than the boss that's there, or maybe the boss that's there is leaving and you think you can step in and fill their shoes well. So subconsciously, somehow, you are looking for a way to get yourself into the position where you are in charge, where you're the boss in some area of your life. Paying the cost to be the boss. All right, let's see. The next thing that we're looking at talks to me about learning style and also communication style for you as it pertains to this particular life cycle. I do see that there's a lot of spirit aid in the things that you're learning. So there could be things that you're finding out right now that maybe you wouldn't have found out if spirit actually wasn't helping you, wasn't lining things up, bringing in little synchronicities. So you happen to stumble on this information or that information, or you happen to be in the right place at the right time to hear this tidbit that will affect you. You know, so, but I do see that there's a lot of spirit help that's coming in through into your what you're learning, what you're researching, what you're picking up as it pertains to this life cycle. The next thing that we have coming up talks to me about communication style. Looks to me like Virgo's in your communication style right now, at least as it pertains to this particular life cycle. You're being very open. You know, what you see is what you get, basically. You're not playing any kind of word games. You're not playing any kind of manipulation games. You're just really, you know, showing the good and bringing it forth and letting people decide from there what they want to do with your ideas. La da 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 da. Next, what we're looking at is work. Now, for those of you who have been watching me a while, you know that I'm strange about work because work can mean one of two things with me. So we're going to look at both. So one of the ways work comes in for me is, you know, the way that you make a living. The other way that this comes in, though, is that inner work, those things that we do to improve our character and ourselves. So when I see work coming in, we've got, when we look at how you make a living, what I've got coming up is that there's some challenges at work. I have the sense that you guys may be feeling over your head. You feel like you're being asked to do some things that you're not so sure you're qualified or that you are good enough. Maybe you're being asked to do it at a level that you're not sure you're ready for. But just basically in general feeling over your head. For most of you, this doesn't feel like it's dramatically over your head. It feels like you could learn it and pick it up and, you know, you can do well enough. But it's just, this is not like your area of expertise, and I just get that you're not feeling exactly comfortable with the work that you're doing right now when it comes to how you make a living. Now, as far as inner work, I do feel, Virgos, like some of you have been really good at criticizing yourself and cutting yourself down, all that wonderful self-talk that just hasn't been very positive or helping you, just kind of basically beating yourself up mentally and emotionally on the inside, all those things that you think about yourself. And so what I'm seeing right now, the inner work is to, you know, put the weapon down. You are trying to put the weapon down. You're trying to quit injuring yourself with all those negative thoughts. You're trying to start thinking more positive things about yourself and move forward in that direction. You're starting to learn how to not be so hard on yourself, how to forgive yourself. You know, people always want us to forgive other people. They always want us to forgive them. The most important person we can forgive is ourselves. And I think that's part of what you are going through right now as you're doing your inner work. Okay, so let's look next at that part of your personality that is being grown or expanded right now. And so what I have coming up here is, okay, so here's what I'm getting. I feel like you guys have, at least for a little while, been challenged with the idea of finishing something up. It seems like you can get projects started, but you've been having a hard time bringing them to completion and ending that cycle so you can move on to the next one. So you've been kind of like a record that's on repeat. You just kind of keep going around and keep going around without ever quite coming to the end. The part of you that's being grown or expanded right now is that part that is completing the cycle, that's reaching those goals or those targets and actually saying, okay, good, I've got this. This is mine. I've reached this. I've completed this. So you're coming to a place of completing the cycle. And what I'm hearing for you, Virgos, is that a lot of this has to do with worthiness, that there's been a lot of things that you haven't been able to complete or finish up because you've questioned whether you're worthy of receiving the benefit of completing that. So part of you, the part of you that's being grown or expanded right now has a lot to do with understanding your worthiness so that you will allow yourself to meet your own targets and your own goals in whatever area it is that you've been holding yourself back. Now, I don't think you've been holding yourself back from that in every area. I feel like there's just a particular area for you guys that you have been. Okay, so that's that. Next, let's look at those things that you stand for. Okay, Virgos. Okay. So first of all, you're standing up for a person in your life, and this person is somebody who is highly intelligent, very quick-witted, always interested in the truth, can spot BS usually a mile away. Usually, I'm saying. If this person, and for most of you, this person will be a she, but not all of you. But if this person misses BS, it's because they are just not in a place where they can be objective about whatever's going on. But typically they spot BS a long ways off. And I feel like there's somebody that has something to say about this person and you are defending that person. I feel like what they're doing is they're complaining that, you know, this person doesn't really show emotion, which is a common complaint for this personality, because they do typically make decisions based on logic, where emotion doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. And so this can feel kind of cold and distant to people who don't understand that. And so I think there's somebody there that is sort of complaining about how this person handles things, about the fact that this person does seem so cold. Maybe the person who's complaining doesn't even know that this person has feelings that they're complaining about, and you're standing up for this person. I gotta tell you, for a lot of you, I'm hearing that this person that you're standing up for is either the complainer's grandmother or grandfather, more likely grandmother, or it's your grandmother that you're standing up for quite a big number of you. Quite a big number. 80%. Now, how the other person perceives you. So this person that you're standing up for, that you're standing up to about, the person who seems detached and who makes all their decisions logically, how that person sees you is they see you as somebody who's very independent, as somebody who is completely capable, that you can handle things very well by yourself if you choose to. I don't have the sense so much that you choose to, but they see you as somebody who you could if you wanted to and if you needed to. All right, so excuse me, all of that stuff that we just talked about is all the setup. So all of that's going to be present tense. You should recognize all of that. Now, what I'm getting into next is going to be the lesson or experience, and then after that, how that pans out, the fulfillment of the life cycle. So the lesson or experience, you may already be you may already be walking in that or experiencing that. Same thing with the end of the life cycle. You may be almost at the end of the life cycle to where you've experienced all of this, or you are experiencing all of this. But it also may be that this stuff is just something that maybe you see coming down the road, or maybe you don't even quite have a hint of it yet. It's just hasn't come into manifestation at all yet. But if it hasn't, it will. At least for most of you. It is a general reading, so not everything I say is going to apply to every single Virgo here. But lesson or experience that we have showing up here, I would say this is probably more of an experience than a lesson, but it looks to me like you're going to be going through a time where you're feeling a little bit pessimistic about people and the goodness and the kindness of people in general, or of a particular relationship that you're involved in. So it could be that you've seen somebody's true colors and now you realize that somebody that, you know, you've been friends for years and years and years, but you had no idea that they stood this way on this one position. It's going to change how you feel about them. It's going to change the coloring about the relationship. It's going to change how much you want to interact with that person. So it could be anything like that. Or it could be something that's just in general. You know, maybe you've been watching the news and you're seeing all the terrible stuff that they report, and you're thinking, wow, people are awful. I don't want to be around those. So it can be, it's a pretty wide range of what this can be. This can be just general disgust with the population at large, all the way down to just despair with your own particular romantic relationship or friendship or a relationship with somebody, you know, anybody important to you, really. Okay, so there's lesson or experience. So what happens as we integrate this lesson or experience into your lives, Virgo? What comes up here? First of all, I do see a lot of thought going into things. I really see you thinking things through. And that may be partly the influence of this grandmother person that you were standing up for. They may be giving you some guidance that says, you know, take the emotion out of it. Start thinking this stuff through. Pay attention to the logic here. But I do see you start to think some things through very deeply. And maybe even you're alone as you're thinking some of those things through. You may even start to journal as you go through this for some of you. Now, the other thing that happens is I see you picking up more responsibilities here. So as you're going along, even as you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I want to be around people, or oh, I don't know if I want to be around this person, you're actually picking up more responsibilities. So if this is a relationship situation that we're looking at, it's kind of interesting that you start to feel like, oh, I don't know about this relationship, and yet at the same time you're picking up responsibilities. This is a card that can talk about taking the relationship to the next level. So maybe what it happens is you question the relationship and you question the validity of the relationship, and then you find out, maybe because of the questioning, that that person really wants things to be more than where they are, but maybe they weren't comfortable saying so. Maybe they didn't think you wanted that. Now, the other way that this could come in is that, if you're feeling like a particular relationship isn't working out really well, or you're feeling like people in general just are kind of funky wonky, then you could be picking up other responsibilities that keep you away from that relationship or keep you away from people in general. So that's a very real possibility with the way this is shaping up so far here too. So I think, we've got a couple different storylines. We've got things playing out a couple of different ways depending on who you are. And then ultimately what we have coming up is that there's something that you have invested some time or some energy or some effort in, and you haven't really gotten the payback back from that time or effort or energy. And so ultimately what we see is we see you waiting to receive that payback. Now the way this came up, I do believe you will get the payback. You're just not getting it as soon as you thought you would. And I think that's where that funky attitude is coming from. Like, I've invested so much of myself into this situation. I would like to see some coming back, some replenishment from me here. And it's not there yet. It's just not there yet. But the way this comes up, it will be. You just have to give it a little bit more time to do its thing so that you can start collecting on that payback, however that payback pans out for you. Whether it's emotional or whether it's something at work, effort you've put into a project, whatever it is going to pay out. At least according to this card, I would say it is going to pay out. Just give it some time. Give it more time than you thought you would have to, and just be patient. Let it do its thing. It'll grow. All right, so Virgos, those are your insights. Thank you so much for stopping by, hanging out, liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. I do appreciate all of your support. I'll see you guys back on the next video if I don't see you first for a reading or for a Reiki session. Peace out.